Have you ever heard of a mystery so strange, so chilling, that it defies all logical explanation? Tonight, we are diving into one of the most baffling cold cases in American history, the disappearance of the Yuba County Five. This isn't just a story about 5 men who got lost, it's a journey into a puzzle where every piece of evidence only creates more questions. It all begins on a cold night, February 24th, 1978. 5 best friends from Yuba City, California, Ted Weiher, Jack Madruga, Bill Sterling, Jack Huett, and Gary Mathias, were on top of the world. They were all in their late 20s and early 30s, known affectionately around town as the Boys. Despite facing mild intellectual disabilities and mental health challenges, they shared an unbreakable bond, a love for sports, and a gentle nature that endeared them to everyone. That night was special. They piled into Jack Madruga U.S. prized 1969 Mercury Montego and drove about 50 miles north to Chico to watch a college basketball game. They were buzzing with excitement because the very next day they were scheduled to play in a Special Olympics basketball tournament of their own. It was supposed to be a weekend of triumph and celebration. The game ended around 10 p.m. The boys were seen leaving the arena, getting back into the Montego, and driving off into the night. And then, they vanished. Completely. That was the last time anyone saw them alive. As the hours turned into days, panic set in among their families. These weren't guys who would just take off. They were reliable, they had their routines, and they had a huge game to look forward to. Something was terribly wrong. A massive search began, but for days there was nothing. No calls, no sightings, no clues. Then, on February 28th, 4 days after they disappeared, a forest ranger made a strange discovery. High up on a deserted, snow-covered mountain road in the Plumas National Forest, he found the Mercury Montego. The location was bizarre. It was over 70 miles away from Chico, deep in the wilderness and in the complete opposite direction of their home in Yuba City. Why would they drive up here, into a snowstorm, in the middle of the night? The car itself presented an even bigger puzzle. It was stuck in a snowdrift, but not badly. Police believed 5 healthy young men could have easily pushed it free. The doors were unlocked and one window was rolled down. Inside, everything seemed almost normal. There were candy wrappers and empty milk cartons from a stop they'd made after the game. A program from the basketball game was on the seat. But the keys were gone. There was no sign of a struggle, no blood, no indication of foul play. Even stranger, there were no footprints in the snow around the car, suggesting they'd been gone for a while before the latest snowfall. It was as if they had simply evaporated into the cold mountain air. For the next 4 agonizing months, the case went cold. The snow in the Sierra Nevada mountains was too deep for a proper search. The families waited, their hope dwindling with each passing day. Where could their boys be? Finally, in early June 1978, as the thick blanket of snow began to melt, the horrifying truth started to emerge. A group of motorcyclists exploring a remote trail stumbled upon a Forest Service trailer. This trailer was used as a shelter for park workers and was nearly 20 miles from where the car had been abandoned. 20 miles, on foot, through treacherous, snow-covered terrain. Inside that trailer, searchers made the first grisly discovery. Lying on a bed, wrapped in 8 sheets like a shroud, was the body of Ted Weiher. The autopsy revealed a shocking story. He had lost nearly 100 pounds. He had starved to death, slowly and agonizingly, over a period of 8 to 13 weeks. His feet were severely frostbitten, and his shoes were nowhere to be found. He hadn't died on that first night. He had survived for months. The scene inside the trailer was maddeningly incomprehensible. In a storage shed right outside, there was a year's supply of sea rations, canned food, enough to keep all 5 men alive for a year. The cans were untouched. Inside the trailer, there was a propane tank connected to a heater. It was full. All they had to do was turn it on. There were matches and paperback books they could have used for kindling. They had everything they needed to survive, yet they didn't use any of it. Why would a man starve to death when he was surrounded by food? Why would he freeze when he had access to heat? The search intensified in the woods surrounding the trailer. Soon, the remains of two more of the friends, Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling, were found. Their bodies were scattered by animals, but the evidence suggested they had frozen to death, perhaps while trying to walk back toward the main road for help. 2 days later, a father searching with his sons found the backbone of Jack Huett near a stream, about 2 miles from the trailer. His skull was found a short distance away. 4 of the 5 men were accounted for. But what about Gary Mathias? His tennis shoes were found inside the trailer, which suggested he had been there with Ted Weiher. But his body was gone. To this day, Gary Mathias has never been found. Not a single trace of him has ever been discovered in that vast wilderness. So, what happened on that mountain? The police were stumped. The official theory was that they took a wrong turn, got confused, and abandoned their car. But that doesn't explain why they drove so far up a dangerous, unpaved road they didn't know. Jack Madruga, the driver, hated the cold and the mountains. His family insisted he never would have made that turn willingly. One popular theory revolves around Gary Mathias. He had a history of schizophrenia, although he was being treated and was stable at the time. Could he have had a psychotic episode that night? Did he somehow convince the others to follow him into the wilderness? This might explain some of the irrational behavior, but it doesn't explain why they didn't use the supplies in the trailer. And it certainly doesn't explain what happened to his body. Another theory, and one that many of the families believe, is that the men encountered someone else on that road. There was a witness, a man named Joseph Shones, who told police he got his own car stuck in the snow on that same road around the same time. He said that while trying to free his car, he heard whistling and saw a group of men and a woman with a baby walking up the road. A little later, he saw headlights behind him, which he assumed belonged to the same group. Was it the Yuba County 5? And if so, were they following someone or being chased by someone? Did they run into something so terrifying that fleeing into the frozen forest seemed like the only option? This theory might explain their fear. It might explain why they abandoned a perfectly good car and ran 20 miles through the snow. Perhaps someone told them the trailer was a safe haven, but didn't tell them how to use the supplies, or they were too frightened to think clearly. Maybe that same person or people came back to the trailer, which could explain why Gary Mathias disappeared. The case of the Yuba County 5 remains one of America's most haunting, unsolved mysteries. It's a tragedy layered with questions that have no answers. Why did 5 friends drive up a dark mountain road into a blizzard? Why did they abandon their car and trek 20 miles into the wilderness? Why did they starve and freeze to death when salvation was within arm's reach? And whatever happened to Gary Mathias? Over 40 years later, the truth is likely buried forever under the snows of the Plumas National Forest, a silent, chilling monument to the night 5 friends went to a basketball game and never came home. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into a truly unsettling mystery. If you find these kinds of stories as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next investigation. Stay safe out there, and see you in the next video.